Letters from Christopher, Chapter 7, The Last Family Vacation. The following couple of paragraphs has some lightly touched on things the FBI does not know. Trust me, there is more to come in the following chapters. When Christopher was at the airport leaving for North Carolina, Nikki sent him a text telling him to take this time to fix the issues with your wife and enjoy time with your family. This gave him a warm feeling of no pressure, and he loved her for it. The first night Christopher arrived in North Carolina, Shanann needed something for a really bad headache. Christopher told her he would get her something. Thinking she was taking an over-the-counter pain reliever, he gave her an 80-milligram dose of oxycodone. He said the pill made her sick, and Shanann was up vomiting most of the night. He didn't help her because he wanted her to lose the baby. He felt he had given her a large enough dose to miscarry. He texted Nikki that he wouldn't be able to call her, just text her. She replied to him with, "Why not? Are you with her?" He thought she wanted him to spend time with his family. That put the pressure back on him. Obviously, she wanted him to spend time with her no matter what. Christopher was used to trying to please the woman he cared about. The next 8 days, he ignored his wife. At night, when she would want sex, he would leave the room. He was not intimate with Shanann during that entire week. He felt he had to do this in order to disappear so he could talk to Nikki for hours on the phone. When he returned to Colorado, he went to Nikki's using his work truck. That day, Nikki gave him a key to her place. She withheld from the FBI that she ever gave him a key to her house. It told him that she was ready to take the next step forward in the relationship, so he told her he was moving forward with the separation. He promised Nikki his relationship with Shanann was going to end, even though he had not yet talked with Shanann about the separation. Shanann, in the hopes they could still fix their marriage, or at least work on it, ordered a book and had it mailed to him, hoping he would read it before she came home. When he got it, he didn't even open it. He just threw it in the garbage. Christopher realized that day that he could not have Nikki and his family at the same time. It was the first time he realized it. It was time to get rid of what was standing in the way of he and Nikki being together, and he could make that happen. He had his nerve up, but the nerve he had was not to talk to his wife about their problems, but to kill her. While in North Carolina, they had made plans to have a little family vacation at Myrtle Beach, the week he'd met Shanann and the girls in North Carolina. Shanann may have thought if they got away together for a few nights, they could talk things out and make things better. She tried to do that. By his account, she really wanted to talk, but he wouldn't give her any time to talk or try to come together. Christopher was not willing, nor did he have any desire for things to work out between them. The only reason he was there was for the girls, not Shanann. Even the girls were on his nerves. He had very little patience with them. It was blatant. Anyone around him would have noticed he was aloof and unfriendly. Very out of character for Christopher. But even his 3- and 4-year-old girls' spirits noticed the darkness in him. Their pure spirits could see or sense his dark spirit, and they did not have much to do with him. They did not want to hold his hand or walk and play with him on the beach. Normally, they loved playing with their dad, and he loved playing with them. Not during these days. However, they basically didn't want anything to do with him, and he really didn't want much to do with them. The first time ever he felt like that about his kids. Children can see things sometimes that adults cannot. They are innocent and pure. It's a belief in the paranormal community that infants and small children are much more sensitive to someone that is evil or has evil intentions. It's believed they have a more open mind as they don't have the mental barriers adults have developed. In order for a spirit to be seen by a human, the human needs to be open and non-judgmental. That describes children. The world hasn't touched them yet. Maybe to some point they still belong to that sweet, senseless spirit world from which they come. They probably did not sense he was going to harm them, just his spirit being opposite of theirs, not necessarily something to fear. When he left Nikki's that first day back from North Carolina, he had to hurry to meet Shanann for an ultrasound. What should have been a joyful time for them was met with almost a hatred for her and the baby. As they were doing the ultrasound, he could see a new life moving. He felt indifferent and cold towards Shanann and the baby. He did not let the event register in his mind. Here was his son, the son he had always wanted, but he felt nothing for him. Shanann reached out to take his hand in support, but he pulled away. He wanted no part of her or this baby. He wanted a different life. Christopher went back to work and things carried on as they had before they left. He tried to act as normal as he could around his co-workers. Shanann believed they were better, or at least taking small steps toward better. When he met Shanann later that day for her ultrasound, Shanann was excited. She gave a friend the envelope that revealed the gender of the baby and had invited friends over for the big reveal. Christopher was obviously not happy, so since it would have been awkward in front of all their friends that they were not the usual couple they had always been, she canceled the party. A day or so later, she asked that friend to return the envelope, and she texted Christopher. He texted back that he would like to find out with her the gender of their baby. When he answered yes, she texted back she loved him so much. He did not respond. Later, she asked him to hold her and hug her. He refused. Christopher was cold and shut her out. She said they were talking some, so she thought things were a little better since he found out the baby was a boy. However, he was trying to make things work for his advantage. He was thinking about killing her and the girls. At what point does a person allow their fantasies to change to reality? In this case, it changed soon thereafter. Later that evening, as they were getting ready for bed, Shanann brought up how cold he was when she wanted to hold his hand. He told her his head was just not in the right place and he couldn't deal with her right now. He told her he would be sleeping on the couch. She said to him, "Whatever is going on or whoever she is, know that you will never see these kids again. So make sure she is worth it." With that, she slammed the door with him on the other side. He waited until he figured she was asleep and called Nikki. He slept on the couch that night. The next night, he stayed in the basement to call Nikki from there. He had decided his marriage was over, but had not told his wife. Shanann knew that fight between her and Christopher's parents had really affected him, so she sent pictures of the ultrasound to Ronnie and Cindy, introducing them to their grandson, trying to start rebuilding what had been torn down. They said they did not respond to her. Nikki was excited where things were going and started to tell her friends about Christopher. He decided he needed to delete his Facebook. He knew that her friends might see that Shanann was pregnant. Taking down his Facebook was a further signal to Shanann that something was wrong. This was a definite red flag. It was still important that she save her marriage, so she did what she knew best. She booked a couple's weekends in the mountains. She found someone to watch the girls, and Christopher agreed to go, but already knew he would not be going. He said he went along with it to satisfy her for the moment. He was already planning how to kill her and the girls and was daydreaming about getting rid of his baggage and starting a new life with Nikki. With this new life, he would be able to dump all the things of the old life, the house mortgage, his big bills, his family. This was not logical or normal by any means. Why was he not able to see that none of this was reality and had huge consequences? Is it possible that being wrapped in the web of lies because of this affair kept him from looking at things logically? Yet, of course, not every affair ends in murder. Shanann had thought about canceling the trip to Arizona with Thrive. She was going to a Thrive convention with some of the girls on her downline. Her heart was just not in it since they had just been apart for so many weeks and things had not gone well. Yet Christopher did agree to go away with her the next weekend, just the two of them. And she had told a friend they seemed to be headed in the right direction. Christopher did not want her to cancel. He saw an open door to be able to see Nikki. So he told Shanann to go ahead and go on her trip and they would talk when she got home. This gave her a flicker of hope that things may be getting better. So feeling somewhat relieved, she decided to go ahead and go to Arizona for her job. The weekend was hard for Shanann. Her pregnancy, her morning sickness, her marital problems were all she could think about, and he wouldn't even touch her. She loved their life and didn't want it to end. She didn't want to raise these 3 kids alone. Shanann was a person who seemed to love life and the people in her life, and she wasn't ready to stop fighting for her marriage, but unfair as it was, she didn't know what or who she was fighting. With things being stressful and confusing while living a double life, Christopher felt God gave him 3 chances to turn around from the affair and things he was planning in his mind. He had those chances to turn everything around, and none of these things would have happened. One evening on his way to Nikki's house, he felt God's urging him to turn around and not to do this, but he kept going, knowing the whole way there he should turn around and not go to her place. All of a sudden, his car started to skid, like it was going to run off the road. He almost lost control, knowing immediately God was trying to turn him around. There was no other explanation for why he started to lose control of his car. He knew this was the first chance God gave him to get out of this situation. Christopher put it well when he said, "We always think something new feels better than something old." It didn't take long for Christopher to find out the old was much more appealing and comfortable than the something new. When Christopher talked to Shanann during that 5-week time period that she was in North Carolina, he became more and more distant with her. As much as possible, he would ignore her calls and texts and came up with excuses why he didn't answer her. He was building that wall between them, so it was easier to forget he had a family. She didn't understand and started to question the distance being put between them. He had always been so good and attentive to her. She even told one of her friends that before she left, he couldn't keep his hands off of her, and now he would barely talk to her. I think she realized how much she loved Christopher and wanted to make things right between them. Had she taken the girls and gotten on a plane and gone home, it might have changed everything. Yet his actions were so different than anything he had ever shown before. He was either trying to rid himself of guilt by going to Nikki's, or he didn't have any guilt at all, which is very possible since he did not feel remorse or guilt after he killed them. He was falling out of love with Shanann, and in its place were only the thoughts of trying to get rid of her and his kids. He now thought he had fallen into love with Nikki, or was he in love with the way Nikki treated him? Nikki was not like anyone he had ever met. He loved her touch, her conversation, her beauty. He thought she brought out the best in him, yet she actually was bringing the darkness out of him. He had an addictive craving for her when he wasn't with her. Shanann was not one to coddle him or give in to his actions, but she knew this was not the Christopher she had always known and loved, so she did try to be kind and more attentive to him. Something had drastically changed between them, and if it wasn't someone else, she could not figure what it possibly could have been. With this looming over her, she must have felt such a heavy weight over her. She was about to be blindsided, even though she was being warned by her friends that she should find out if he was seeing someone. Her friends urged her to ask him if there was someone else, and later that month, she did start asking him. She asked him daily, several times. Her insecurities were coming out. She had never worried about Christopher cheating on her or making her feel anything but important to him. He would only answer he didn't know what was going on in his head, but no, there was no one else. He kept making excuses for being tired or would say he fell asleep early. It seems the last thing she considered was him having an affair. No, the last thing she considered was him murdering his 2 daughters and her. She trusted him and believed he had always been truthful with her. She even told a friend Christopher didn't have game. She didn't think it was possible for him to love anyone but her. That's the kind of trust she had in him. That's the way he had always made her feel, and she made him feel the same, she thought. Chapter 8, the week before. As with anyone having a premarital affair, the lies got bigger and the deception grew. Christopher, during this time, says he felt dark. He felt that he had definitely changed and not for the good. This may sound like a ruse and may sound like he is blaming the murderers on something else, but he says that it is not the case. Darkness would have to completely fill a person who could plan to kill his family because he has a mistress he wants to be with. Darkness enters through a person's mind and makes one feel it's fine to plan and carry out dark things. The individual reasons away the good and makes the bad choice. It empowers the person to feel he is commissioned to do whatever he wants to do. Was Christopher temporarily insane that morning or oppressed by a dark spirit? Whatever it was, it prevailed. Knowing what we do know about what was about to happen, in hindsight, it's hard not to look at it as a darkness that was hovering over their home that fateful morning. Shanann did not know, and she may not have felt anything unusual. His plan is lurking over his home. He must have felt empowered, knowing all things are going as planned. Much has been posted on YouTube about the spirits and sightings that were left in the home. If spirits can dwell in an empty house, that spirit could still be there, which would make sense why things have happened since no one has lived there. The person buying the house next should definitely have the home blessed. Consider Matthew 12 in the Bible. When an impure spirit comes out of a person, later Christopher will tell you when and how that happened, it goes through arid places seeking rest and does not find it. Then it says, I will return to the house I left. When it arrives, it finds the house swept clean and put in order. Then it goes and takes with it 7 other spirits more wicked than itself, and they go in and live there. If there were spirits in that home, they were not the spirits of Shanann, Nico, Bella, and Celeste. They aren't hating and mad. They are in the most beautiful place there could ever be, heaven. Sandy says with her experience was beautiful and did not feel like a haunting. Any kind of spirit that haunts is evil. Christopher talked about how eerie his house was after the murders. How is it a man's love for his children isn't more powerful than the act of murdering them? The forces of evil are not greater than the forces of good, unless we have allowed that evil to take deep root. Christopher had read that fathers do not kill their children, but he did. Why was Christopher not able as a grown man to see the consequences? No one could imagine the conflict of good and evil that must have gone on in his head. Yet he says, when his mind went to getting rid of his family, it stayed there. This is one of the things Christopher did not tell the FBI. The thought of killing the girls did not just come into his head the morning of the rage. This is something he had been fantasizing about for a while. He had planned Shanann's murder and he planned the girls' murders. When he was distant and withdrawn from her, in his mind he was planning how he could kill her. He said he had been having these thoughts for a couple weeks. He keeps saying he knows had he not chosen to have an affair with Nikki, he would not have killed his family. Christopher does know why he killed Shanann, Nico, Bella, and Celeste. By his own admission, he wanted to be with Nikki, no matter what, even if that meant he needed to kill his family so he could be free to be with her. That may not be a big surprise to many people, but Christopher, until now, had not admitted it. His mother kept asking him why. He would not tell her. He ended up telling her she would find out when she read this book. However, there is still a lot of denial by his family that Christopher killed his family. The Watts family came home on August 7th. The day Shanann and her girls left for North Carolina would be the last time they would ever make that trip. It's the last time she would hug her family goodbye. It was the last time she would ever see her family. The little girls, so innocent and trusting, waved goodbye and left to face a horrible death. For Bella, a horrible, violent death. Things were very strained between the two of them. Shanann kept asking Christopher if he was having an affair. Her friends kept telling her she needed to find out, but he kept denying it. She only had 6 days left of her life. Does a person have feelings of death leading up to something like this? Especially since a mom has a sixth sense about her children. No one saw it coming. Cindy Watts said she doesn't understand why she didn't see it coming. She has repeatedly said there were no signs there were anything wrong. Through some of the videos Shanann posted, you can feel the excitement she had for life, for her home, and for her family. She shows how she loves her friends and was willing to help them find the joy for life she had. It was very hard to read the text between Shanann and her girlfriends about Christopher's cold and hurtful behavior. He was building walls between them, and this is disturbing knowing what he was planning, but this was something she had no control over.